Good morning. And it came to pass in process of time that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage, and they cried, and their cry came up unto God. Exodus 2:23. In this verse, Israel is crying and sighing because they are in bondage as slaves in Egypt. And the children of Israel also wept again and said, Who shall give us flesh to eat? We remember the fish which we did eat freely in Egypt, the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic. But now our soul is dried away. Numbers 11:4-6. Wait, what? Weren't those the same people that one book earlier were crying out to God to deliver them from the same place they now long to go back to a few chapters later? All they could think about was that watermelon they used to eat while they were slaves to the Egyptians. Juicy, sweet, so refreshing from the heat. I had some on Saturday night and it was delicious. I mean, who wouldn't trade a bit of slavery and some beatings for a big juicy slice of watermelon? Now, before you start laughing and shaking your head at those Israelites, think with me. Does that sound even just a little bit familiar? If it's hot outside, we want sweatshirt weather. If it's cold, we long for those warm summer days at the beach. If our hair is straight, we curl it. And if it's curly, bring out the flat iron. If it's summer, you wish school would start because you miss your friends. But once school starts, you long for the weekends. If it's Christmas, you complain that it's just too busy to relax and enjoy the season. When Christmas is over, however, you feel very sad as you put away those ornaments. If the cake is chocolate, you want vanilla. If the ice cream is vanilla, you wish there was chocolate. Before the pandemic, you complained about never being at home with your kids, and now 6 months later, you complain that you are always home with your kids. When your husband wants Mexican for date night, you opt for Italian. When he wants Italian, well, today you're craving a super burrito. If you're tall, you wish you were short. If you are short, you wish you could just reach those top cupboards in your kitchen. When you're in college, you can't wait for graduation. And when you graduate, you long for those good old college days. Before you were married, you longed to cuddle up with your love, but you know that you need to save that for marriage. But now that you're married, some days you won't let your husband touch you with a 10-foot pole. When your kids are growing up, you complain about the mess they make everywhere and how much laundry you always have to wash and fold. When you are an empty nester, you long for dirty fingerprints on the walls and the laughter of children in the hall. I used to look down on those Israelites and haughtily roll my eyes at all their complaining and griping. It seemed that that was all they ever did. Until recently, when I was convicted of my own griping and complaining. I distinctly remember sometime around February of 2020 saying to someone one day at school, I just wish I could have some time at home. We are so busy and I just need some time to be at home with my family and get caught up on some things. Well, fast forward a few months and I remember griping the other day about being stuck in the house all day with the kids. Be careful what you ask for. God just might give it to you. I am just like those Israelites. And the other day in my devotional time, the Lord really spoke to me about this, and I'd like to share with you some things that I've learned. Do all things without murmurings and disputings. Philippians 2:14. This is a command from God. Just like it is a command to believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, Acts 16:31, it is also a command not to murmur. Murmur, according to Webster's 1828 dictionary, means to grumble, to complain. So we are commanded in this verse not to complain. Paul says in 1 Corinthians 10:10-12, neither murmur ye, as some of them also murmured, that was speaking of the Israelites, and were destroyed of the destroyer. Now all these things happened unto them for ensamples, and they are written for our admonition, upon whom the ends of the world are come. Wherefore let him that thinketh take heed lest he fall. I messed up that last part. Wherefore let him that thinketh he standeth take heed lest he fall. Paul said that what happened to the Israelites was an example to us. He says that it was written for our admonition. That means it was written to caution us, to counsel us against a fault, or to give us direction. So, with that thought in my mind, I've been reading through the story of the Israelites and their complaints to God. I've learned, first of all, through my study, that God does not like complaining. In fact, He hates it. It makes Him angry. And when the people complained, it displeased the Lord, and the Lord heard it, and His anger was kindled. That puts a mental picture in my mind of someone adding fuel to a fire. And the fire of the Lord burnt among them and consumed them that were in the uttermost parts of the camp. Numbers 11, verse 1. Now, we are not talking about people here that were committing adultery, murdering, performing abortions, sneaking around on their spouse. You know, all those horrible sins that you would never do. No, we are talking about people who complained. That's it. They were complaining. It was hot, and they longed for sweatshirt weather. They were camping in a desert for pity's sake, and we complain that it's 100 degrees. They had quail and manna, and they longed for melons and cucumbers. I mean, all they ate for 40 years was manna and quail, and we complain when we have to eat at the same restaurant twice, 2 Sundays in a row. We complain when we have to eat leftovers for lunch. Now, in my human eyes, complaining wasn't all that big of a deal. However, God is not pleased with complaining. Because all those men which have seen my glory and my miracles, which I did in Egypt and in the wilderness, and have tempted me now these 10 times, and have not hearkened to my voice, surely they shall not see the land which I swear unto their fathers, neither shall any of them that provoked me see it. Numbers 14, 22 through 23. Now, in all honesty, I probably throw out at least 10 complaints a day. And here the Lord is saying that only 10 complaints from the Israelites, and they were not allowed to enter into the promised land. The Lord showed me the other day how complaining will affect my whole experience as a Christian. I will not experience the abundant, victorious Christian life that God has planned for me if I complain. In my next devotional, I will show you through the story of the Israelites what God showed me about what the complaining in my life will cost me as a Christian. Now, it's going to be hot today, so I think I'll go grab a big, juicy slice of watermelon.